My name is Lerato Matsuso, and I'm the Head of Stakeholder Relations and Membership at CAPASO, which stands for Composers, Authors, and Publishers Association. We are the only digital collecting CMO on the African continent. We have bilaterals with more than 29 countries on the African continent. So we are just going to be talking about harmonizing CMOs, because people think CMOs in the music business and it's all doom and gloom, want to eat your money. No, we want to help you collect your royalties so that you are fairly compensated for the usage of your music. All right, so we have an amazing panel. Literally, I'm with leaders. I'm with amazing thought leaders from across the continent. If we can just give them another round of applause to kick things off. Thank you. Okay, so what I will do is I'm just going to ask each panelist to then just give a brief introduction about what you do and what your society does. Thank you. We'll start with you, Medi.
Hi everyone, thank you for inviting us in Rwanda. I'm sorry for my English, sometimes I will speak in French and sometimes I will speak in English. So I'm the Deputy General Manager of ONDA, who is the CMO of Algeria, and we are working on the harmonization in our country, but we have to do it in Africa, and this is a good opportunity to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Medi. Mr. Sangwa?
Good morning, everybody. Maramutse. Maramutse. My name is Samuel Sangwa. I work as the Africa Regional Director of the International Confederation of Societies of Author and Composer. It's actually the umbrella organization of copyright societies all around the world. As of today, we are talking about 230 copyright societies. In Africa, we are talking about 28 copyright societies. Thank you.
That's my CEO, so I have to be extra together. Mr. Matariro.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Lerato, and thank you to everyone who have come to Access. I always enjoy coming to Access whenever I do have an opportunity, and I'm glad we are here. My name is Jotam Matariro. I am the CEO of CAPASO, and I believe yesterday in a discussion that happened, and we were not yet here, you were told that African CMOs have got no systems, and you have got 3 African CMOs right here, and we will tell you during the course of the discussion that we do have systems. And actually that was coming from a massive music user who doesn't respect African copyright. So we will have the discussion on that issue, and here we are with systems, and we will talk about systems today. Thank you.
Thank you. Star?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Dora Makwinja. I'm the Executive Director for the Copyright Society of Malawi, COSOMA in short. I think this is an opportunity for us to share, like my previous speakers have already spoken. There's a lot that is happening in Africa, but I think people don't know. So if we are here, it shows you that we have systems that work. We don't say that there are no challenges. Yes, they are there, but at least something is happening in Africa. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. And I mean, okay, I'll allow my CEO to talk about that, but I mean, CMOs are functional, which is why we have this panel, which is why we have agreements, which is why we have DSPs on the African continent wanting to use your music. So there is nothing like that. There are challenges everywhere, and here we are. We're going to talk about how CMOs are run. So I'm going to start with Jotam. What is the importance of the existence of CMOs on the continent?
Okay, thank you, Lerato. So traditionally, collective management was there to give convenience to rights holders, so that, and also users at the same time, so that when you want to get music rights, you don't have to go to individual people, but you can go to a collective and get your license from a collective management. But now, CMOs on the continent have got a wider scope, which includes poverty alleviation, employment creation, and all that. So it is important that CMOs are run properly and there is enough government support so that we can be able to contribute like any other company in the private sector or in the public sector that contributes to poverty alleviation, employment creation, and making sure that most of all creators are compensated fairly for the use of their creative work, which they put so much sweat in order to be able to create.
And I'll just throw the same question to Mr. Sangwa. The importance of the existence of CMOs on the continent.
CMOs are extremely important on the continent because in all of our countries we have legislation which actually provide for protection of creative works. Somebody has invested time, intellectual property, I would say, intellectual investment to bring to fruition music, audiovisual work, or piece of artwork. And at some point, legislation provides that for the work you have done, you need to be protected. Nobody can use it without your consent. And I can give the work for free, I don't advise, but most of the time you need to remunerate if you want to use it. As individually, I can't go to all of the users who are actually exploiting my work. I can't work to in each bars, each restaurant, each TV station. So I will entrust an organization which you call a corporate society, a collective management organization, to collect on that. So on the continent, this is very important. Why? Because we have creativity across the continent, and we can see here from Algeria to South Africa through Malawi, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, and the like. So we need the creators to get remunerated anytime they work. So that's where the corporate societies comes in. They are very instrumental to capture the economic value derived from the exploitation and give it back to the right order. So they are very, very instrumental. And again, I want to say this, creators need to live, to make a living. You know, they don't have a salary like some of us, so they live out of their work. So it's very important at the CMO to act and collect on the behalf of what is due to them.
Absolutely. I think it's also important to just highlight that you can be a composer and not a performer. You can be a performer and not a composer, or you can be both. And when you're a composer, you can be a songwriter, you can be a producer. And these are obviously some things that artists look down at. And actually, you know, being a songwriter creates a legacy. That is why CMOs exist, to collect for performers and for songwriters. So you can be a songwriter and make enough money just as a performer. So I was just encouraging you guys to note that. Dora, what is it about the entertainment industry that does not look at music as a business?
Thank you very much. I don't think there is any entertainment industry that would thrive without music. So music is the lifeblood of the entertainment industry. So if we are saying that we want to venture into an entertainment area, then just know that you want to deal with music. And for that reason, we see music as very important, because there will be no entertainment if there is no music, so to say. And even if there is music, you need also to enhance the entertainment industry because of the same music that somebody has created. So yes, music is very important for the entertainment sector. And as I said, there is no entertainment if there is no music. And that's why we see that in most of the places of entertainment, including public places, even the broadcasters or the users will not do without music. If there's going to be an event somewhere, even if it's a wedding party, they will have to do with music. The religious, functions, political functions, they have to do with music. I don't think there's any other function that is without music. So this is very crucial and important for the entertainment industry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mehdi, what are some of the challenges that Onda faces in collective management as a CMO?
Si tu permets, tu vas traduire un petit peu. So I will speak in French and my friend will translate. Je vais rebondir sur la première, deuxième et forcément la troisième question parce
So
que
I
c'est
will
lié.
touch upon the first and the second and third question.
Et je vais parler très simplement, c'est-à-dire
And I'll
que
speak
c'est vrai qu'on a
simply.
l'impression que les OGC
We have this feeling that CMOs, corporate societies,
sont des choses très techniques, très loin, très
very
licences.
technical entity.
Mais en réalité,
But in
ce sont comme
reality,
des arbres qui permettent aux créateurs de pouvoir se poser et se nourrir.
it's like trees which enables creators to land on them and to get feed, to get food.
Et on ne peut pas vivre sans musique et la musique est partout.
And then we can't live without music. Music is everywhere.
Et ces créateurs ne peuvent pas aller partout pour récupérer leur musique.
And creators can't go everywhere to get value of their music.
C'est le rôle des OGC.
That's the role of CMOs, corporate societies.
Et forcément, nous vivons également de challenges, de défis, de complications.
And then we have challenges. It's understandable.
Au niveau territorial, mais maintenant,
On territorial level today,
grâce à la nouvelle technologie au niveau international.
thanks to technology which is global, international,
La technologie permet à une musique de Kigali de se retrouver. Donne-moi un pays, le pays que tu veux.
les États-Unis.
Les États-Unis, Bangladesh. On peut écouter une musique
So thanks to technology, music from Rwanda can be heard in Bangladesh or in the USA.
et donc les défis sont dans la technologie, dans la codification des œuvres,
So challenges are in the technology, but also what we call codification of works,
qui vont permettre un matching des œuvres worldwide
which
et
will
surtout
enable
sur les
to
plateformes.
recognize the work, the musical work globally, the matching.
Et je profite de l'occasion pour dire que
Take the opportunity to say that
nous avons la chance en Afrique
we
d'avoir
are
des
very
sociétés
lucky in
de
Africa to
gestion
have
sud-africaines
corporate societies from South Africa,
comme la Samro et Capasso qui ont
like
compris
Samoro and Kapaso, which
que c'est un
understood
business
that it's a business
et qui a besoin d'un élément technologique pour
and there
l'accompagner.
is need of technology to implement and to process.
Donc les véritables challenges
So the actual challenges,
sont de harmoniser bien entendu tout ce qui est réglementaire,
we need to harmonize all regulations,
mais travailler sur le data sharing
but also talk about data sharing
afin de permettre à chaque créateur de pouvoir récupérer son argent
to enable each creator to get their money
de là où on l'écoute ou de là où il est.
from where the music is heard or from where the creator is located.
Morakose, Samuel.
China Candy. Thank you.
Thank you. True indeed, we really do all have to work together and harmonize with the aim of, not just looking outside of Africa. We shouldn't have to look outside of Africa. We have functioning systems right here in Africa. Jotam, so why do we have a considerable amount of creators, composers, and performers who have lost faith, for lack of a better word, in CMOs?
Thanks, Lerato, and that is very true. And I would like to mention that that scenario that you are mentioning is not unique to Africa. It's everywhere. It's in Europe, it's in the US, it's everywhere across the continent. So it's not something that is unique to Africa in terms of how people get unhappy with things that are happening. So the biggest problem that we have in Africa is that when streaming came on board, we were not ready, but we are ready now. And for us to be ready, we all need to be ready. And when I say all of us, I'm talking about collective management organizations needs to be ready. Creators needs to be ready. Creators management systems need to be ready, because for you to be able to earn from streaming platforms like Mehdi was mentioning, where music has gone global, you need to have the data. Data has become a very important component of the information that you need to be able to work, and collaboration is even more important now across all facets. We need to collaborate as CMOs, just like musicians are collaborating across the globe and across the continent and releasing their music together. So the biggest problem that we have is that artists and creators think it is the responsibility of the CMO and the CMO alone to make the CMO functional. It is a collective responsibility because it is your right that we are managing, and we cannot manage your right without you knowing what it is that we are managing. So the biggest problem that we have is that artists and creators detach themselves from the collective management system because they need to be part of the collective management system in order to allow the system to work. And when we are not together like that, this is where people come in with misinformation and telling information that they are not even aware of. Because for somebody to know that there is a dysfunctional system in Africa, especially a licensee, they must have licensed. And when they've licensed, they receive the data, which is not processed, then they can be able to say the system is dysfunctional. But if they refuse to be licensed and they never receive any information, they never provide any usage data, how on earth do they know that the system is dysfunctional unless they are a prophet? So it's actually things like that which actually makes us think that we are not doing well. I believe we are doing well, and I think everyone who is sitting in this room, if you actually woke up and decided to come here, it means you know the business of music is functional and you are going to do something to be able to. So here we are here to share the information to say, we need you, you need collective management. And that way we will be able to benefit everyone who needs to be benefiting. Thank you.
Absolutely. And just to extend that, and I'll ask the question to everyone on the panel, how do we as leaders then restore the faith back in those creators or creatives who feel like CMOs shouldn't exist, licensees like that who think that CMOs don't function? We'll start with you, Mehdi.
Okay. Comme le disait Jotam,
As Jotam said,
nous aurons toujours des problèmes de confiance,
we'll have issues about trust,
des problèmes de méthodologie,
about methodology,
des problèmes de trouver des solutions
issues
ensemble.
about finding solution collectively all together.
La musique est un écosystème où vous allez trouver le créateur, comme vous l'avez dit,
You'll have creators,
l'éditeur,
you'll have publishers,
le producteur,
Producers.
l'artiste-interprète.
the performers,
Ensuite, vous allez avoir des distributeurs, des
you have
agrégateurs,
distributors, aggregators,
et donc la diffusion. Ensuite, vous allez avoir des plateformes,
and then you have platforms,
broadcast, ainsi de suite.
broadcast and the like.
Le problème, c'est que ce n'est pas une question de confiance, c'est une
Not a
question
trust issue,
de méconnaissance.
it's more misunderstanding.
Et aussi de travailler avec des communautés de fédération
But it's very important to work with federation of communities
qui doivent chacun, par rapport à leur propre lobbying, sortir avec une vision.
and then to have these federation of communities working towards a vision.
Le problème actuellement en Algérie,
The problem we have in Algeria currently,
c'est que nous devons discuter, échanger, expliquer
we need to
Et défendre.
discuss, explain.
avec plus de 20 000 membres.
We have around more than 20,000 members.
Ils doivent s'organiser pour se représenter
They need to be organized to be represented within the
et à
CMO
accompagner leur CMO à évoluer.
and then support the CMO to evolve.
Et l'idée principale, c'est que les CMO, et ça c'est un élément central sur lequel nous travaillons au niveau africain,
And that's something very core we are working at African level.
doivent apprendre à anticiper l'avenir.
CMOs need to anticipate the future, what's coming.
Et donc ensuite, ça sera des éléments de langage,
And then how do we
de l'engagement,
engage?
mais la confiance ne vient pas comme ça.
That's how you build trust.
Fair. You're up, Samuel.
Yes, and as he said, the trust basically is not only with the CMO. For collective management of copyright work, you actually have, I would say, 3 elements. You need to have the legislation in place. Very, very important. You need to have legal provision which protect and enforce copyright in a specific country. Very, very important. Secondly, you need to have the CMO, efficient one, well-established and operating. Challenges will always be there, and it's not only an African issue. And I really insist on the CMO, which is really working. When I joined CISAC back in 2017, Africa, we were collecting 56 million euro. Today, we are 81 million euro. You need to look also at the continent in itself, not compare it with other, because it's its own journey. So this showing that CMOs are really working, I'm actually talking doubling. So you need to have the CMO, but most importantly, you need the enforcement to happen. You may have very good piece of legislation, an efficient CMO, but if the enforcement is not happening, but the enforcement is not within the hands of the CMO. It's within the public. It's within the government. That's where we need it. So the trust needs to happen within that at some point. So it's very, very, very key for me to get, that's where we have the trust. And today, definitely, as I said, on the continent, more and more creators are joining the CMOs. I really want to say it because yesterday somebody said African CMOs are not functioning. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. And we need to be very careful about that narrative because that narrative is pushed for certain reason. And that's where people are trying to undermine the trust on the CMOs. Because it's a business, people have an interest to push such a narrative, which is not true. And I really want to insist on that. As of today, we have the CMOs in Africa working together. I'll give you the example of Capasso, which has created a digital licensing hub for a number of CMOs in Africa. They are collecting on a number of platforms on behalf of other African societies. And it's really, really efficient. People are getting paid money. So, so that's how also we build this trust, not only at national level, but also at continental level.
Thank you.
Okay, for me, I think in addition to what has been said, it is transparency, which will bring a lot of trust. So there needs to be a lot of transparency with us as CMOs, where the creator needs to know how much is their music making, where and when, and how much are they getting from that music, what rates are being charged, and what is the amount of money in terms of commission that the CMO is retaining for their operational costs. And then together, we can be able to sit and say, how can we improve those things so that there are no expectations where there shouldn't be any expectations. That can only be done if there's a lot of transparency in terms of how us as CMOs are going to be reporting to our members, the information that we share with our members, and also the information that we collect from those that are using music. So the transparency is not only for CMOs, it's for the users of music in how we report for the use of the music and also how we then in turn process and report to our members.
Yeah, I think a lot has been said, but I think also to ensure that there is that trust, just as Jotam has said, we need to show what the benefit is for the rights holders. For example, in our case, we are a multi-purpose CMO, meaning we are administering different rights and for different categories of rights holders. So if we are able to show that we can collect revenue and distribute to them, that in itself is enough evidence for the rights holders to see that they can work with the CMO. And I know most of the CMOs now are able to do that. They're able to collect revenue and also to distribute to the rights holders. But the challenge that we normally have at times is actually the users themselves that may not want to pay. So from my experience, when we meet such a situation, we have also engaged the rights holders to take part in trying to convince the users to pay, mainly the broadcasters, and usually it could be the state broadcaster that poses a challenge. So one, we need to show that there is a benefit for the rights holders, and secondly, that we have the support of the rights holders themselves. So as music composers or writers, you need also to support the work of the CMOs. So if there is no such support, then obviously we will not be able to function. So the trust will come in, as I said, in terms of where they see that benefit, but also as rights holders, you take part in the work that the CMO is doing by providing the support, not necessarily carrying out the functions of the CMO, but supporting from behind. So I think in a nutshell, that's what I would say.
Thank you. Jotam, how important is it for CMOs to educate members about the landscape of copyright in the continent and obviously exclusive to the country that they're from?
Education is crucial, and I think CMOs must take a leading role. And I think one of the biggest examples is the relationship between KS, Andre, and Annabelle in terms of the research that they do to find out what are the issues that affect musicians, and then they come up with a write-up, and that write-up then guides the policy making in order for, but it is important for musicians to take part in such researches, because CMOs will do quite a lot in organizing workshops. For example, in South Africa, we do organize workshops with DSPs, YouTube, Facebook, even on our own South Africa Africa Copyright Day. We come up as all CMOs, we invite musicians and artists to come. But if people don't come and partake, that education, we can say it, and we are saying it because we know it. We don't need it. I cannot sit in a room, talk to Lerato, talk to Mehdi, talk to Dora. I need to talk to the people that need the education. So education is critical, very important, but it can only be effective if there are people that are prepared to take up the education and get to be spoken about. That is what is important. And right now with the internet, Zoom, Google Hangouts, and everything, there's nothing that stopped an artist or a creator sitting in Rwanda to attend a workshop in South Africa, because all our workshops are hybrid. So we allow others to join. The last time when we did the workshop, we invited all African countries, but we only had, I think, Onda, we had Tanzania, and we had Ghana and Zimura, and the rest didn't attend. So it is important that we do attend such workshops, because a lot of things, and in that specific workshop, we actually had YouTube who were coming. Instead of hearing it from us, you hear it from the people that deal with YouTube. How do you maximize, as an artist, how do you maximize revenue on your platform, which your CMO can then collect, and which you can also collect directly through your distributor and all that. It was very crucial information, which might not come back anytime soon, but whenever we have these workshops, I implore everyone who is interested in the business to attend. And as creators of whether music or any form of art, you must take your creation just like a creation for somebody who owns a BMW badge. That's how important your creation is, because it's your intellectual property, which is key to you and which is your property, which you can survive on. So it is important that when you have got that intellectual property, you do things that a business person can do in order to promote their business.
Thank you. Samuel, how does the participation and the interaction of African CMOs being included in CSAC as full members impact us in the global scheme of the music business?
It's quite important for CMOs to really come together, because as of today, and this was said, you now have big platform with resources which one single CMO cannot afford. We are actually talking about data. And then Jotam will confirm, if you take a platform like YouTube, the quantity, the amount of data which they may send to you for you to process and to invoice them, for a single CMO, it's very, very difficult. And the technology is changing every day, so we need to cope. So that's why within CSAC, CMOs are established within what we call African Committee, so coming together. And in that committee, they consult one another on what do we do in terms of licensing, let me say licensing broadcaster. We have one of the gentlemen yesterday here was a broadcaster, Major One, saying there is issue. Say, how do we license such a broadcaster? at some point. Collectively, which strategy do you put in place? And you need also lobbying. I'm really happy because as of now, we are just from a meeting with Rwanda Development Board to discuss about the collective management landscape in Rwanda. And collectively, we engage with the thing. So this is also coming together to lobby, to work on legislation. So within the African Committee, we really have this extensive consultation among CMOs because, and it's not only in Africa, this business is huge with so many players, you can no more go alone. You really need to come together to have what I call a bargaining position, strong bargaining position. And I really want to say it because I see there are young students from the Rwanda Music School here. One of the things which happens when you don't come together is you'll go to a broadcaster, you are very young, they'll tell you, we're going to promote your music, you know, and the like. So they're taking advantage of you. But when we come as a CMO together, we empower you. You are in a position where you can challenge that through that. Because now our work is to learn how to negotiate, how to license on behalf of those, especially young creators.
Thank you. And just to also piggyback off that, I'll ask the question to everyone on the panel. Also, music education is on the African continent. It's not all countries that have a full program where you are taught music, where you are taught about copyright. Universities where you have a syllabus where you actually sit and it's exclusive maybe if you go to an art school, but it's not something that's taught across. How can we move that needle forward? Because we need that, because it's from that level then where we can grow, just like they do with business, with English, with biology, with mathematics. How do we then move that needle and ensure that the music business, particularly in Africa, is then taught so that it's understood and we can grow the industry? This is for everyone on the panel.
Okay, maybe let me start. Initially in our country, we had music education in schools, but that was a long time ago. Now we no longer have that. It's only taught at the university level. But what we are trying to do now is to engage the Ministry of Education so that at least they can include music education within the syllabus. And also we have come up with intellectual property school clubs. And within that, the secondary school, unfortunately, it's at the secondary school level. We haven't even gone down to the primary school or kindergarten. So what they do is to discuss issues surrounding intellectual property, but focusing more on copyright. And this is what the Korean government had been doing. And if you see Korea today, they've moved very far in terms of copyright and also music as education. And we all know what influence that has on the global continent. So we are trying to see that perhaps we could bring back the music education itself through the intellectual property school clubs. But also I know of some private schools in Malawi that are very much interested in teaching copyright. But they haven't moved far because the policy of the government has to change first. So we need to have the government accept the reality that this is an industry which is very important and crucial for economic development, and that people need to know about music education and also copyright in general, why they need to appreciate the rights of creative people and so on. And I'm sure going with that, we can restore the lost glory in terms of respect for intellectual property rights. And if we have music education in schools, most of the students, I'm sure, or primary school going pupils, will be able to appreciate what music is all about and also take it as a career. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So for me, I think what needs to happen is that in our music schools, for example, the Rwanda Music School, that I would be very interested to find out what it is that they learn, because in Africa we are very good at having schools that teach the art. So you come out of there, you are excellent with an art, but you can't manage that art because there is no business that you have learned along the way in the process of doing that. And I appreciate the fact that not everyone is a business person and not everyone can also manage a business, but that idea to understand that this is a business will be very critical in terms of what you do. And I think the situation in Malawi is the same situation in South Africa, where the school that teaches music and music business is a private school, and not everyone has got access in terms of finance to be able to go there. So I think it is a situation that across the continent, the government have got to take a deliberate move to be able to introduce music business in universities where our children go, so that those that are interested, just like somebody can choose to do law, there should be somebody who chooses to do music business as a career instead of just going there and learn the art. So I think it's something that needs to be changed across the continent because the creative sector has become a very massive industry around the world. And when you look at the US, music alone, it's in billions of US dollars, which is made out of music alone. So we can also actually look at that and make quite a lot of money in South Africa, actually, and in Malawi, by the way, where I was last week. In Malawi as well, the creative sector contributes 3% of the GDP. In South Africa, the report was saying 3.1, but we believe it's well over 4%, and probably Andre could, because he does a lot of research on those things. 4% of the national GDP. In South Africa, the creative industry is bigger than agriculture, but the government puts good laws and a lot of money into agriculture without any support coming into the creative sector. So I think that's the mindset that needs to be done in addition to the education that you're talking about, but I think it's just an overall of how we look at the creative sector, because it's a massive sector which can take people out of the street, which can take people out of out of drug abuse and all that, and then both the creators themselves as well as people that work as administrators in the creative sector, in CMOs, in publishing companies and everyone. And I think also I would like to challenge all CMOs, publishers and record labels as well, to probably just take a stance and set a procedure and start the ball rolling. Let's do it ourselves, and let's see if the government doesn't see the benefit, and then they come in, because it is also a business. Thank you.
Yeah, and you're totally right. I think it will take a deliberate move, and I'm going to build from the example of Rwanda. Probably those here know what is that TVET, Technical Vocational Education School. Basically, that's where you go and learn skills quickly, ready for the employment. And then you find it across the country, basically. So we need also to have that deliberate mindset to say, how do we mainstream music business in a number of education stream, I would say. You are talking about your business plan music in music industry in secondary and university, but also in those type of facilities. The advantage with this, you don't need to be, let me say, PhD. It's entrepreneurship, basically, All of us can be creator. In my other life, I thought I could be a singer. No, that's not my part. But I went to find my niche, which was copyright, and this is where I'm getting my life, So it's this type of deliberate move, I would say, basically. How do we mainstream it into a number of areas? We're actually talking about jobs creation, and jobs, you need people to be skilled. And then you can find how we skill people in different type of setup in a country. So it also take that deliberate move from the private sector, from the public sector, for the civil society to say, here, there is something. And I really want to insist on that, because we're experiencing, in a way or another, what you may call the creative brain drain. Our young people tend to say, I'm going to go somewhere else where the business is much more rewarding. We need to fix that issue. We need to create the opportunity here. So it takes a deliberate will to make it happen, to make sure the business is happening here.
Tu vas être obligé de traduire. I'm sorry. En réalité, et je reprends aussi la première, deuxième question de la discussion.
And the discussion we had.
Jaillit la lumière.
Yeah.
Donc à partir de là, en fait, nous devons commencer à mettre en place des plateformes de discussion.
We need to have discussion platform.
Nous devons nous organiser.
We need to organize ourselves.
Et chacun doit avoir des obligations.
And then each of us should be accountable.
Actuellement, vous avez vu, et c'est ce que nous faisons au niveau de l'ANDA,
And then that's what
nous
we
faisons
do
de l'éducation
on that we do education
au ministère,
at
aux parties
ministry
prenantes,
level, at
aux
different
usagers.
stakeholders, the users.
aux membres. En réalité,
And
notre
members.
rôle, c'est de nous occuper des membres.
Our role is to take care of our members.
Et je pense qu'il est nécessaire maintenant de commencer à devenir disruptif. Et
We
ça,
need
c'est
to
ça
be
le terme.
disruptive.
Nous devons avoir cette
term.
capacité en tant
We need to have
qu'OGC
the capacity as
de se regarder en face
to really look at ourselves
et de se dire,
honestly,
là, on s'est trompé,
and then to say, here probably we were wrong.
là, on doit faire du lobbying,
Here we need more lobbying.
là, on doit développer certaines choses.
Here we need to develop.
Et donc, l'idée principale, et c'est les discussions que nous avons actuellement avec les autres sociétés de gestion africaines,
The discussion we are currently having with other CMOs in Africa.
c'est de travailler sur un programme de copyright engagement.
So we need to work about copyright engagement. That's the program we'd like to work.
Prendre les stakeholders,
Engage a number of stakeholders.
mettre en place des tunnels de conversion
How we engage with them, communication channel.
et faire en sorte que chacun passe d'un point A à un point B.
And then we see how we are moving from point A to point B.
Et surtout, voir qui doit payer quoi.
And then to know who is accountable of paying what.
Parce qu'un créateur est là,
Because the creator is just
et il est
there.
seul.
He's alone.
Qui va l'aider pour signer son contrat? Qui
Who
va
should
le
support
conseiller?
him in
Qui doit l'éduquer?
licensing?
A-t-il même le temps d'être éduqué sur des questions qui ne l'intéressent pas?
Does the creator have even time to be educated on matters which are not of interest for him?
Et je pense réellement qu'il a besoin d'un écosystème.
So he needs an ecosystem.
C'est comme l'histoire des arbres, des oiseaux.
So like the story of the trees and the birds.
Et on doit apprendre à s'organiser, se regarder en face,
So we need to
gagner
organize
du temps.
ourselves.
On doit travailler très vite. Les créateurs
And go
eux-mêmes
quick.
doivent s'organiser.
Creators themselves also need to be organized.
Les éditeurs. Et ils doivent être
Publishers.
surtout être accompagnés
Yeah.
d'avocats,
We need also lawyers,
de personnes qui savent écrire des rapports.
people who know how to draft reports,
Et aussi mettre en place des ingénieries. Et c'est comme ça que toutes les industries dans le
and
monde
then
qui ont
engineering.
fonctionné
And that's how all industries in the world have worked,
ont pu émerger
which has,
et permettre aussi à un pays de se dire, il y a un PIB.
and then to say in a country there is a GDP, national GDP.
Il y a de l'argent,
There is money.
on ne sait pas comment le ramener.
Still don't know how to.
On ne se fait pas
Bring
confiance, on ne sait pas se parler.
We
Je
need to
pense
talk more. We
qu'une
need-
occasion comme Access permet
so
véritablement
access enables
de repartir vers les bases de
to
la
really go
discussion
to the
inclusive
fundamentals to have an inclusive discussion,
et mettre en place une stratégie harmonieuse
and then to have an harmonized strategy.
parce que nous avons des défis.
We have challenges.
Intelligence artificielle,
Artificial intelligence.
la volonté de venir ici vous proposer aussi du rêve. Je vais vous raconter une histoire si vous permettez.
I'm going to tell you a story. If you
Je ne vais pas citer le pays
I'm not
occidental,
saying which country,
mais la musique algérienne
but Algerian music,
était très aimée dans les cabarets de ce pays-là.
it was really liked in the bars of that country.
On avait une personne qui allait récupérer ces chanteurs,
We have somebody who
C'est
go
clair.
and take those musician creators
on les emmenait dans ce pays,
and took them to those countries, to that
on les
country.
faisait rêver de tout et de rien.
They made them dream of anything.
Carte de séjour, amour,
You'll
argent.
have love, money, residence permit.
On leur expliquait même pas comment signer le contrat.
They didn't even explain them how to sign a contract.
Et ils repartaient. 10 ans plus tard,
10
les
years
nouvelles
after.
technologies.
New technology came,
Internet,
internet and
Spotify,
Spotify.
money and everything. Ils ont mal signé leur contrat.
They signed wrongly their contract.
Et on les a emmenés dans un monde auquel, aujourd'hui, ils regrettent.
So they took them in a world today they're actually regretting. They don't understand that word.
S'il avait une connaissance en tant que juriste, s'il
would
avait
have
pris
been
son temps,
legal knowledge,
s'il aurait conseillé son OGC,
if they
il aurait été
had
conseillé ou là, posé la question.
the advisory services of the
Il serait pas
CMO.
là. Et actuellement, nous vivons de grands défis en Algérie par rapport à ces
So in Nigeria, we
éléments
have those big challenges.
de piratage, de faux contrats,
Piracy, false contracts.
et c'est très compliqué. Donc nous devons apprendre à déjà nous aimer, travailler ensemble
We need to love one another,
et
work
réfléchir
together
ensemble pour un avenir
and
meilleur
think together.
pour les créateurs, pour toute l'industrie
for better future for the creators, but for the whole industry,
et pour l'économie continentale.
and then for the continental economy.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Don't go signing any contracts. And just to also expand a little bit, because we know that it's not a challenge just exclusive to the African continent, but it's a challenge across the entire music globe, where creators, composers, those that record do not then write their split sheets. They do not come to an agreement. They don't agree, you know. It's a global issue. Publishers have the same because they would then control composers or administer rather composers. I'll ask Jotam and Dora. Why do creators not want to give us the metadata? Because a CMO can exist, but if you don't give us the data to collect on your behalf, we can't collect the royalties. But then a creator would then come to a CMO and say, I want my money, but we don't have the metadata. So how do we gel that relationship or teach more that this is what is needed? Or, I don't know, how do we shout on top? Maybe we can come with a solution that Americans, Canadians, Asians can adopt. Maybe the solution is here. How do we move forward with that?
Okay, I will start on this one. So I think there are two issues. The first issue is to clear that perception, the perception that African CMOs cannot do it for you. So if you have that perception that a CMO cannot do it for you, what are you going to do? Because just saying, I'm not going to do it, just saying I can't do it with Samuel does not solve this problem that you need to do it. So one thing has got to be done if you are going to be moving. So I think perhaps that perception needs to go away, because perhaps the reason why you are saying the CMO is not working for me is because you haven't even given them the data. So if you haven't given the CMO the data and you are not a member of the CMO because you don't even like the CMO, again, you have got no right to say this CMO is not working properly, because how do you know? Because you have never tried them. I've spoken to big artists. I was talking to Lerato the other time, a very big artist from Nigeria who is now known internationally. We were chatting and he was like, no, I'm not going to use an African CMO and all that. In fact, it started when we were on a panel, at a Canex panel, when it happened in Durban. And I challenged him on the sitting and said, no, sir, I know you have got all the fans. These guys can all turn against me now because you're a superstar, but I'm going to tell you, what you're saying is not correct, because we are doing it, and we are doing it across the continent with all other CMOs. I mentioned the other CMOs that we were doing it with, because that's the perception which was planted in his head. And he was like, and then I said to him, have you ever been a member of a local Nigerian CMO? And he said, no. And I said, so how do you know? He said, I was told. I said, that is your problem right there. And then he was like, okay, I will come to Joburg, we will have a meeting. We had a meeting which ended very well, and we talk every day now. So it's to kill that perception which thinks that we are not good enough. If we were not good enough, we wouldn't have this auditorium. I look at this auditorium every time I come to Rwanda, and I'm like, oh, this is Africa. This is us. We can do it. So if we can do it like this, we can do it in every area. So, number one. Thank you. That's the perception we need to kill. The second thing is that as artists, when you go into the studio, there is always an issue, and now I'm talking about the South African experience. When you ask them, why don't you have an agreement? Of course, copyright doesn't require you to have an agreement, but when you have an agreement, it makes it very easy for us to be able to solve whenever there's conflict. Most of you will probably agree with your colleagues in South Africa who say it's an uncomfortable discussion. Yes, business is uncomfortable. It's not easy. If you want to be in business, be prepared to have uncomfortable discussions. Have a discussion. Obviously, when you are starting, you are collaborating with a big artist. First of all, you do all the work. You think you deserve 70%, you get 10%. Get that 10%, get it written down. That's how you start. As the business grows, as you become popular, you are now the one getting the 90% as well. So the first thing that you need to do, write down, enter into those agreements. Have your split sheets. They are readily available on website. The Music Publishers Association, I think Tando is here, the chairperson of the Music Publishers Association. The split sheet is freely available for anyone everywhere in the world to download and fill in all your splits. You fill in those splits, you sign. That information, you just go and give it to the CMO. Easy. The CMO will do all the work to capture all the information. Just give us your ID. We take all the information from that document. That way you now have the information. And after that, because it's your information you gave to the CMO based on the mandate, whenever you want to use it elsewhere, you can still go back to the CMO and say, please can I have my information which I gave you? You now have the information. But it's that easy to get the information, but everybody thinks it's so difficult to get the information. That information is what will make you get paid. That information is what will make you be able to recognize the work that is being done.
Okay, thank you. I think just taking from where Jotam has left, I think what we have observed in our country, Malawi, there is lack of understanding or inadequate understanding of the business of the CMO. The rights holders themselves don't understand what the CMO does and what it can do for them. But they end up being manipulated by the users because the users don't want to pay mostly. So they are told, we can deal directly with you, which is not wrong. But at the same time, if, for example, you're dealing with the CMO, it would help a lot because in terms of negotiating, the right holder is not in a better position to negotiate the contracts, like it was already said earlier on. So I think it's about changing the mindset, like it has been said already. So you need to change the mindset, but also for the CMO to do more in awareness raising. You know, education, we are coming back to the same issue. Need to inform the rights holders in terms of what they can benefit by giving their data or metadata to the CMO, what it means. But also show that using that metadata, you are able to collect revenue on their behalf and distribute the remuneration. And that's not only for the country, I mean the users in the country where you can collect from, but show that you can even collect from foreign organizations or foreign users through a collaboration that is there between the CMOs. So I think that would help a lot if we are to help in changing the mindset of the rights holders. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Dara. We have literally run out of time, but I have a last question, which I'll throw to everyone here, to ask what advice, very briefly, would you give to composers and performers, publishers in this space right now? Just brief advice about for the career. And two, your wish for the Pan-African hub, because that is what we are. We are a Pan-African hub. What is your wish, or how would you like to see us grow as a Pan-African hub, outside of looking at the Europeans or Americans, but growing within? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lerato. So the advice that I would give specifically to creators is what I've mentioned already, to say when you have decided to go into the business of music, make sure that you do the right thing. You must be informed as much as possible. I know every musician has got a manager. It is the duty of the manager to make sure that they look for that information, then they give it to you. You must sign your split sheets. Make sure that when you collaborate with anybody and everyone, you make sure there is a split sheet that is signed, because that document will make it very easy for you to prove your claim in each and every song. You know, there are a number of issues where the song is now big and somebody comes and says, but you know, I actually did the beat on this song. I actually did, but you've got nothing to show for it. When you do that, whether you are a producer, you are a beat maker, you are a lyricist, you are a composer, make sure that your contribution is in writing and you have your signature there. That will be very helpful. And with regards to the Pan-African Hub, I'm so proud that we as Africans were able to do that for ourselves, because, and in addition to us growing that hub for Africans, we are now collaborating with even international organizations that are also coming and saying, you know the terrain, you are Africans, you know your continent, can you do this for us? And that actually shows us that collaboration is not weakness. Collaboration actually means a way forward, and I would like to see us grow it even further. We were discussing with Mehdi last night and other options that we want to look at to say we really need to invest even more on technology, on AI, for us to be able to track and trace and distribute even faster at a low cost to income ratio. That's my wish for the hub.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
Yes, for the wish, and I think I'm going to direct it especially for the young here in the room, especially those from the Rwanda Music School. Learn, knowledge is power. Be the best in what you are learning. Be the next Mehdi, the next Hugh Masekela, the next Fally Ipupa, whoever. Learn, really be this. The other thing is, join the corporate society here. I believe you are almost 300, they told me. Popo is in the room. I think it's 400. With you, young people, in the corporate society, you will drive the corporate society. You will be the change you want to see happening. So join the corporate society. And easily, I can tell you, this thing is money. Create. I don't know if you can already create at school, I believe so. Create, try to put it on platform. I can assure you, for the next Saint Valentin, you will have enough money to go with your girlfriend or your boyfriend out. So create, that for me will be the advice. The other one, for the hub, definitely for me, this is what we say solidarity, Ubuntu, very important. It's only collectively that we can make it happen, collectively. And it's not only corporate society, it's all of us, publishers, distributor, anybody in the room, and I really want to thank Access, because this is this conversation which we need to have again and again, which empower us at some point. So this for me is the hub, but it goes beyond what we call the digital licensing hub. The hub is where we come together to collectively try to find solution, to really be strong together.
Thank you. Doran, Mehdi, briefly.
Okay, my brief advice is that work with the CMO, support the work of the CMO. Give your data to the CMO. That will feed into the digital licensing hub that Capasso is also hosting on behalf of everyone. You see the benefits. Thank you.
Très brièvement, donc,
Very briefly.
Kennedy, direct. Le président Kennedy leur a dit, ne vous demandez pas ce que votre pays peut faire pour vous,
So Kennedy said, don't ask what the country can do for you,
but what you can do for your
but
country.
what you can do for your country.
My advice is the same
My
with your
advice is the
CMO.
same. Build your own CMO.
Avoir une OGC forte,
To have a strong CMO,
c'est avoir des sécurités par la suite,
they have safety, security in the future.
mais c'est à vous de le construire également.
But it's up to you to build it.
Et pour le hub, c'est nécessaire.
And for the
Nous
hub,
devons y aller.
very
Nous avons commencé à en
necessary.
discuter
We have started discussing it.
et nous devons mettre en place le meilleur parcours possible et imaginable.
We need to put in
À nos
place the
créateurs.
best ever journey for a creator.
Et c'est notre rôle.
And that's our role.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is our incredible panel. Thank you, Dora, Jotam, Samuel, and Mehdi. And remember, music is business, and Africa is business. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much once again. If we could have you standing for a quick group photo before you take leave.